Hello Pisces, and welcome to your April 2022 reading. Let's go ahead and just dive right in and see what we have. And we have instinct. But I feel like this is coming up because you have been going through a process of basically questioning your instincts. I get an overall feeling that at some point in time, for some of you it may have been recent, but it doesn't have to be, you followed through with what you thought was your instinct. And then for some reason it didn't pan out the way that you thought it was going to when you pursued it. And so now you are questioning whether or not your instinct is legit. You're questioning whether or not you have intuition. And there's a part of you that knows that you do, but for whatever reason, this particular instance, this particular occurrence has you really beginning to kind of question and look at yourself and reflect a little bit. And unfortunately, I feel like it's questioning to the point of making you feel justified more in the questioning than justified in the validation. So this, I feel like, is something that's going to be occurring towards the end of the month of March as you move into the month of April. It's just sort of a prevalent overall sense that I'm getting. So first of all, I just feel like I have to say, don't be too hard on yourself. Give yourself more grace than you're giving yourself regarding the situation. If it hasn't happened yet, or if you're on the cusp of it, just give yourself grace about it. Let yourself know that you remind yourself of all the times that you followed through with your instinct. And just maybe look at this particular instance that you are contemplating and examine what it was that happened that led to the direction it did. Other than that, I'm not getting a whole lot on that, other than the fact that there's just a period of questioning, and it's just something that you'll have to process through. And the biggest thing is to give yourself grace. Don't beat yourself up too much about it. Your instincts are more on point than you are giving yourself credit for. Do not let this one instance push you down or make you feel like your intuition is not based, because it is. All right, we're going with the next card, which is against the grain. And I feel like one of the reasons why this is coming up is because there was occurrence that made this come up, that made you feel that way. But on top of that, there's something on the horizon that you've been contemplating or wanting to make a decision about, or you're considering to make a decision about. And for some reason, you're beginning to second guess your connection. You're beginning to second guess whether or not you have what it takes to make the right decision, so to speak. It seems like it's a circumstance that usually you rely on your intuition or your instincts or your gut with deciding whether or not to follow through with whatever this is. And because of this occurrence that happened, this questioning is kind of in the back of your mind, and it's really kind of making you second guess. And one of the reasons why that's making you second guess, it feels like it's also something that's kind of out of your scope of normal, which is why the against the grain is coming through. And I feel like overall the message is coming through to let you know that it's okay to be following through with something that is against what is considered normal behavior for you, or what is considered to be expected. It doesn't matter if this decision or choice that you want to go with is kind of against the grain. If it's something that you know you want, then follow through with it. I'm getting an overall message that maybe you need to just take some time to not so much focus on the situation itself as much as just kind of trying to find a way to kind of calm the thoughts and calm the expectations, so that if you think about it or meditate or pray or whatever the case may be for you, you can get a better clarity on the actual answer that you're seeking. I feel like along with this, there's just an overall sense that you're kind of afraid to go through with what you want. You know what you want to choose, but you're kind of hesitant to choose the thing that you want to choose because it is so different. And so then you're not quite sure if it's because you want it, or if it's actually intuitively being suggested that this is what you're supposed to follow through. If you want something bad enough, then unless you're getting some pretty clear cut answers that this is a bad choice, I wouldn't I would try not to focus too much on trying to figure out if your intuition is correct, and focus a little bit more on finding either a more rational way of trying to break it down, or trying to find a way to meditate and free up your mind and become a bit more passive in your meditation to get your answer. But don't be too hard on yourself. Allow yourself the process and connect the way you normally do. You know, if you're really getting hung up on being afraid that you're making the choice because you want it, and so therefore you're afraid that you're stamping down or quieting your intuition, maybe before you meditate on it, write down all the reasons why you want it and just set it aside, and try to connect with all the reasons why you think you should follow through. And if it's word for word for why you want it, then you might need to do a little bit deeper thought process. But if you meditate after doing that and you find out that the reasons why you feel pulled in that direction resonates with, but isn't exact, isn't verbatim, or slightly different, then you can pursue that this is probably being pointed in the right direction. But give yourself some space, give yourself some time. Don't get too hung up on whatever it was that made you feel slightly disconnected with your intuition. Or at the very least, give yourself a breather. Take a rest from going over it in your head over and over again, and give yourself a breather. Give yourself some space before you get back to trying to contemplate it. A lot of the times these answers come to us when we're not focused on them so strongly. At the very least, you can, if you are someone who journals, you can just write out the question or the request and set it aside and allow the answer to come to you when you are in a meditative state. You know, if you participate in doing any sort of petitions on a spiritual perspective, you can figure out a way that you can put in a request and then allow it to present the answer on its own time. But don't get too hung up on this, and don't get too hung up on wondering whether or not your intuition is correct. Again, your intuition is a bit more on point than you were giving yourself credit for. We're following with the King of Pentacles, and I feel like this is coming through because this, whatever this is, it is connected with finances in some regard, or at the very least in your sense of security. And it's a sense of security that's separate, or at least not exactly tethered with your intuition. So security in self, security in life, and like I said, it feels very much economic. So this is, I get the overall sense that this is one of those things that's going to have you feeling like you're afraid to make the wrong choice because of how much it'll rock your boat, how much it'll rock your life. And so then that kind of plays with our intuition. Again, I have to go back with what I said about, you know, at the very least, maybe if you journal or whatever, or maybe say a prayer or put out a petition or whatever, and just kind of resolve that you're hoping for answers regarding the best way to go with this particular situation, and then allow it be known to who or whatever you work with as far as your higher self or ancestors or deity, and just let them know that I really need clarity on this, and then just release the control over it and allow the answer to come. You'll find that sometimes those answers come whenever we're doing tasks that are therapeutic or have us kind of a bit more passive in our thought process. So, you know, when you're folding laundry or doing the dishes or whatever the case may be, you know, at the very most, you could just write out the question and then color for a while and see if the answer comes to you while you're coloring, because of that meditative therapeutic mindset that we're in when we're participating in that kind of activity. So whatever it is that's going to be unfolding for you for the month of April, like I said, there's something that's going to happen that has you facing a choice, and as a result of it, you're going to be questioning your instincts and your intuition. And one of the reasons why is because of how much you feel or possibly even fear that this might actually have an impact on your sense of security, predominantly from an economic standpoint. The Four of Pentacles is coming in, as far as it's coming in two parts. This can continue the conversation points that I was already making regarding how this has the potential, or at least you feel like it has a potential of kind of rocking your economic standpoint and making you feel like you need to be a bit more strict with your budget, or a bit more strict with your finances, or a bit more strict just so that you can feel more secure. So that sort of kind of pulling in or drawing in or constricting of yourself to assist with the sense of security that sometimes construction can be. This It's not so much that this is saying that this is a bad perception or a bad way to go about it. Everybody's situation is different. So how this applies to, since this is such a generalized reading, how this applies to everybody who may come across this, I can't give a specific analogy that might resonate with one person or the other, because it feels a bit more broad than that. So like I said, the Four of Pentacles is coming in as either, for some of you, it can be a fear that you have, and for others of you, it can be a suggestion as a solution to what it is that you're facing, and the conundrum that you're facing as you're moving through this choice, this option, and where this may take you. A Nine of Cups, there's an overall sense of possibility for fulfillment. Some of this has to do with something that you've envisioned or had asked for quite some time ago. So it's not something recent. It's not like you put in a petition last month and suddenly things are coming to fruition. I feel like for a good bit of you, this is something that you dreamed of or you considered quite some time ago. So long ago, you forgot that you thought this. You forgot that you wanted this. You forgot that you had a fleeting moment where you wished for this. And so this is sort of giving you insight in what direction you want to go. This is giving you an opportunity to sort of reflect on where you are now, and if some of your desires are still the same, whether or not you still wish for this. And if you do, do you have the courage to follow through? And maybe you realize that you kind of sort of still desire this wish that you made quite some time ago. But at the same time, you recognize that there are other things that you wish for that you perceive to be more fulfilling, and you would rather perceive that. So, or rather pursue that. So in general, you're being given the opportunity to kind of be reflective also on maybe some wishes and petitions and requests that you had placed quite a bit of time ago, and now you have an opportunity to kind of reflect on, is that still the direction that you desire to go, or have you made some changes, or have you changed enough that this doesn't really match what you perceive as your life goal or your life purpose? We're continuing with simplicity, and I feel like this is tapping a little bit in the Four of Pentacles. Don't get too wrapped up in being too constrict. Just find simple solutions. So when you're facing whatever is going on and you're coming to the point where you really want to make a decision, and also just as you're moving through this, simplify a little bit. Simplify your approach, simplify your mindset, simplify how much you are driving towards that answer. Make sure you're taking the time to relax as well. Again, when we're agitated or when we're really getting kind of worked up and trying to force an answer, it really can kind of close off the flow of connection and guidance. So take a step back, simplify your process, simplify how you are looking at what the solution may or may not be. Just take it from a more simple perspective and see if maybe your flow of connection and guidance will broaden a little bit in the meantime. All right, Pisces, that is all I have for you. I hope this particular reading has given you clarity and provided you with insight in a way that is far more than you were hoping for. I hope the month of April ends up being a good month for you, and hopefully I will see you in a future video.